Okay, what is the difference between a neurosurgeon and a Scrum team? I think we can put the whole clinical doctrine kind of thing to one side because that's quite an obvious bit. So this really comes back to professionalism. If you think about a neurosurgeon, this is a highly skilled, highly trained person who is going to work, we hope, with the utmost of integrity. Yeah. At the end of a surgery, and this isn't only neurosurgeons, of course, this would be any surgeon, they're going to check that they've not left anything behind, that they've done the job that was asked of them to the best of their abilities. So one of the things I always think about is, I used to work with a lot of doctors and nurses, was at the end of a surgery, they count all of the items. So they're counted in and they're counted out. What they don't do is just go, we're probably about right. Because leaving one thing behind could be potentially catastrophic. But it's definitely not ideal, is it? If we step away from neurosurgery and you go into a more general surgery, if somebody left a scalpel inside of you, that would be a problem. Probably one they'd notice pretty quickly. But if they left, some swabs inside of you, maybe they wouldn't notice. That's still going to cause a problem. So in the medical world, we know that they work in a very disciplined, very, very strict approach of everything that they use is checked and double checked. Do we have all the things we use? Do we have all the implements? Do we have all the consumables of our trade? And until everything is found, they stay there. They make sure the job is done properly. They are accountable for their work. How does this relate to the developers, to the Scrum team as a whole? Well, I wish it related a bit more. What I would like is a team that took that same accountability, that said, no, we are going to do our job properly. We are going to count everything in and out. We're going to ensure that what we set out to do is done to the highest standard, professionally, with integrity. Not rush around, cut a few corners and get it out because somebody's shouting and screaming at us. One of the things that many product developers are missing today is just that little step further. It's coming. It's much, much better than 20 years ago when I entered the industry. It's coming, but we're still not there. Okay? We expect it in every profession, bar product development. Well, that's worrying because for me, product developers have a greater impact than that neurosurgeon. A neurosurgeon is going to be working on one person at a time. It takes years. Please don't think that I'm trivializing or putting down the work. It's incredibly important. But they're going to impact that one person. And once they finish that, they might move on to another one. They may be done for the day. These things can take a long time. If they're highly skilled, they're highly experienced, they may be involved in a couple at a time. Okay? And they are going to ultimately be inventing techniques that help more surgeons perform better, to deliver better outcomes for patients. But actually, their ability to impact the world stays quite limited because it's about their ability, that one person being able to work as well as they can. In the product development world, we impact a lot of people. Now, not to the extreme. Most of us aren't working in that sort of system. Some, though, are. Okay? But we are able to impact a lot more people. If you work in the finance world, if you work in a bank, you might have millions of customers and your work is impacting them all. And you might see yourself as a small cog in a very, very large machine. And okay, but if as a developer working on a current account, you make a change that breaks people's ability to access their money, there's this huge damage done. Okay? Hopefully, it's not as catastrophic as a neurosurgeon, but there is damage done. I remember when banks a few years ago blocked people accessing their current accounts. One of my friends went to pay for fuel. She didn't know that her bank card no longer worked. She didn't have any other card on her. She couldn't pay for the fuel. Car sat on the forecourt for the fuel that she couldn't pay for. What do you do? Well, thankfully, she could ring around and get somebody to ring up and pay over the phone. But if she couldn't have, would she leave her car there? Would she drive off and risk them chasing her? What happens? And that was one person. How many people were affected by that outage? Well, hundreds of thousands across the UK, as it turned out, in many similar ways. If you lost access to your bank account on the day you were exchanging for a new house, one of the most stressful things you could ever do. Imagine it, just for a second, imagine. What's the problems there? What could go wrong? Worst case, you could lose that house. Maybe they say, you know what, stuff it. If you're not ready, we're not doing it. Or you could get hit with loan fines and all sorts of things. This all matters. These are real human consequences to not having the diligence that we would expect of somebody like a neurosurgeon. And they're magnified so immensely because of the nature of the technologies we use, that we create. Okay? We're not affecting one person. We're affecting thousands or potentially hundreds of thousands of people with our changes. Okay? We expect the highest levels from many, many other professions. What we need to do is look at the developers, look at the Scrum teams, and expect the same qualities. Okay? And as people who work in those teams, we need to demand that expectation. We need to be the ones who say, no, we are going to do this properly, to the right quality for this product. Different products, different quality levels, of course. But there is a minimum bar to anything, something where you say, this is good enough. This is the right level. Below that is unacceptable. Below that, I won't put my name to it. I'm not doing that work. And if you require me to deliver something that has the potential to damage people's lives, people's outcomes, I'm not going to be a part of that. Okay? We're not there yet. Okay? We are making inroads. It's really quite positive. But what I want you to think about as a Scrum Master is, how do we help our teams not only hold themselves accountable to this quality standard, to this level of integrity, to this rigor, but how do we help organizations understand and respect the professionalism that they're bringing, and therefore the better outcomes that they will deliver because of that professionalism?